But in way of background, as you all know on the call, I put together the Okoboji Writers Retreat, which takes place in the fall. This year it will be September 27th through the 30th. And what I do is have a call with speakers in advance of our getting together in Okoboji. Because, and I've heard from many of you who have attended other writers' conferences and attended ours and say it has a different culture. And Andy, I may ask you to speak to that in a second because you've been to 4 of the 5 held so far. But it does have a special culture, and that's because we spend time in advance of the retreat talking to speakers about the importance of respecting all of the participants wherever they are in the process. And that means, well, I see Michelle Cowan on the call, and she attended the first Okoboji Writers Retreat and got up and introduced herself and said, "I'm not a writer, I'm a nurse, and I don't know what I'm doing here, but my husband was killed by a drunk driver, and I feel compelled to write a story." And here we are, X years later. She's not only published her book, but she's been on book tours all over. She continues to work very hard on getting this book out there in the world. And you know, that's what makes me do this kind of thing, because it's so fulfilling to help people in some small way get their stories out in the world. But our guests today get these stories out in the world in a big way, not a small way. So let's go ahead. And Andy, I'm going to call on you first. And if you would, Andy Ross is a literary agent who has been to, as I said, 4 of our 5 retreats so far. He had the audacity to go to Paris last year.
No, no, Provence.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Whatever. Anyway, tell us in your words, Andy, what makes this conference stand out, and if you would address it to your fellow speakers.
Well, hi, everybody. This is one of my favorite conferences, and I go to a lot of them. And for one reason, it's very fresh. I have I think Julie, when she started this thing, had never been to a conference before. So
That's
she
right.
sort of started with the seat of her pants. And one way or another, it turned out to be a very special conference. It's a little unusual. A lot of conferences are mostly fiction and memoir, and are a lot of people writing those, but a lot of the people on the faculty are journalists, which is kind of interesting. I always wanted to teach the class on how to write an obituary, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. And it's in a great part of the world. It's part of the world that normally I don't go to, which is Iowa. My wife is from Iowa, and her mother had 14 siblings, so about half of northern Iowa is my wife's cousins. So that's another great reason to be there. We have what, 3 or 4 agents here this time. We're all going to take pitches. I know in this business, if you've been trying to find an agent, there's a lot of rejection that goes on. It's like trying to, get a job at a play on Broadway, and you get rejected because your eyes are brown instead of blue. So it's not because of bad writing. It's usually because of some kind of marketing sort of thing. But I have found authors in writers' conferences, in this writers' conference, and some of them have been among my bestsellers. One is optioned for TV or something like that. So you're doing the right thing. And one of the things I tell people when they're having difficulty getting an agent is to go to a writers' conference and do it face to face, preferably having the agent read a few pages in advance. And it kind of puts you more at the, top of the queue.
Andy, what advice do you have for your fellow panelists, your fellow speakers?
Oh God, I know these guys. They've been around the block a million times, so I don't have any. It would be presumptuous for me to give them advice, so I won't.
All right, Catherine, I know some of the advice that you will give your fellow panelists is to bring bug spray, I think.
Oh my God, yes.
I don't know. It's something about you because we have not had that problem in years past, but it was bad last year.
I had a wonderful time at the conference. I recommended it. Rita and Sherry are my recruits. Um, but yes, I would say bring a hazmat suit and anything else you could think of, because I was overly popular with the buggies. But I wouldn't give that as a reason not to go.
Well,
The
you
wee
got
beasties.
you are highly regarded in your field and do a lot of conferences for writers workshops and around the world. What advice do you have to your fellow panelists about this particular workshop besides the bug spray?
Oh dear. Well, these are some pros. This is my Fab Five list you got here. Well, Fab Four. I didn't know what to expect, and I was really taken with it. Again, the size of it is quite something. Make sure you don't miss that cookout. Um, and there was definitely a quality to the writers. Of course, so many journalists and songwriters. These are people often, very focused on writing. So, I mean, it was great. It was, I would say, in terms of advice, recognize how big this is and figure out how to kidnap one of the golf carts. And I can share the wonderful Doug Burns, who couldn't have been kinder and more accommodating to drive me around and take me to a pig farm. That was a high point. Um, but in terms of the writers, we're very used to this. We're certainly there to be kind and to be participants, and in no way to dash anybody's dreams or hopes. I guarantee you, you won't have anyone in tears because of any of us.
Okay, well,
I want to say one more thing just to give people a little bit of inspiration here. Um, there was a conference a couple of years ago, unfortunately, not this conference, and they asked me to read, I don't know, 5 pages in advance for 10 of them, and 9 of them weren't very good. And the 10th was one of the best things I'd ever read. And then I read the whole book. I got really excited about it. It was a novel, a debut novel. And she sounded really excited to work with me. I mean, this thing was just moving in the right direction. And when I read the rest of the novel, it was still great. And then I didn't hear from her in a while, and I contacted her, and she had gotten another agent. And I
Aw.
just noticed a couple of months ago that the book had sold at an auction in 13 languages. I don't know for how much, but it looked like it was pretty close to 7 figures.
Mm.
And of course, she turned me down, so I hope the novel fails. But I Schadenfreude is one of the great experiences of being in this business. But anyway, I mean, if she had just sent me a query letter, I probably would have passed on it. I wasn't particularly looking for literary fiction at the time, but I met her at that conference, and you know, that's the end of the story.
all
Let
right.
me piggyback on that just to add, we go to meet writers, to be part of an event. We're really there for the writers. We all sold projects from conferences, so please see us as approachable.
Good. Thank you. Sherry, let's introduce you to the group and uh, tell us a little bit about you and what you're looking forward to. If you have any questions, we'll do that, and then we'll get to Rita, and then we'll ask what kind of questions our participants might have.
Hi, everybody. I really am looking forward to being there. I have been to Iowa once. I've been to all 50 states. And I really want to say how glad I am that you open with the fact that we're there to help, whatever stage you're in, whether you just started thinking of an idea, thinking maybe you want to be a writer, just want to find out how publishing works, learn the ropes before you step your toe into the arena. At every step of the way, there is a good decision for your next step. There are different paths you can take, and understanding the different paths will really help you decide how to move forward. And there's so many different reasons to write a book: for your family, for yourself, because you're born with characters in your head to live with, or you have expertise, you're there to entertain, or to educate yourself, educate others. At every step of the way, we can help you figure out your next step or your step after that. And I'm really looking forward to that. I love nurturing authors, and I found many authors at writers' conferences, and made friends, lifelong friends. So I'm really looking forward to being there to help. And also, I have worked in every field in publishing: scientific textbook publishing. I'm a writer. I've written over 30 books that have been published. I managed a scientific textbook publishing company. I was a book packager, thought of ideas for books, found writers to write the books, and sold the books to publishers. Love doing contracts. There are very few questions that you can have that I won't be able to answer. And I wrote, one of the books I wrote is called The Kaizen of Poker. And that's all about the art of continuous improvement. So I'm very much interested in sharing the idea of Kaizen with continuous improvement of your career and your life and your writing path. And basically, you can query me about anything, because if I like it, I will take it on.
I love it. I love it. Are you going to give a demo for us at Tuesday night about poker?
I love to talk about poker. Everything relates to poker, but also I won $34,000 on Wheel of Fortune, and I love telling authors how becoming a contestant on Wheel of Fortune is just like becoming a published author.
Wow, I
I'm
can't
I'm
wait.
staying away from you at the poker game, Sherry.
Yeah, I think so. I
And
think so.
I have one more thing. I have been working closely sometimes with Rita Rosenkrantz. We do select projects together. And I will let Rita tell you about the wonderful collaboration we did on a book that is about to come out. Oh, I can't wait to tell you in detail also at the conference, the experience of nurturing a new author to what looks like will be great things.
Oh, that's wonderful news.
First time author, but in every way, she's a pro, and that's a pleasure.
Well, with that, Rita, welcome to this austere group here. Tell us about this particular project, and then a little bit about your background.
Well, the author is Christine Gertz, and the query came to Sherry. She enlisted me to participate, and I think we learned that Sherry and I have complementary contribution to a project. I am a former editor. I bring an editorial eye to the projects I take on. I've been an agent for a very long time, but have never lost my editorial instincts, and worked very dutifully on this project where the author had wonderful credentials, but was slightly misguided, if I can use that word, in how she put it on the page, how she put her expertise on the page. And with good guidance, I'd like to think, and her good reception, we put together a proposal that ultimately was winning. And Simon & Schuster, Simon Element will be publishing it. It's called Take Your Back Back. And the author is affiliated with Duke University, has strong connections to many communities that will serve the book by buying it in bulk. And it's wonderful to see a query letter morph in this way, and it's another reminder that it could be that organic. We think of, I never use the word slush pile, for instance. I call it unsolicited, submissions, because as I have said repeatedly, there's gold in them, there hills. Some people are just not connected, which is not to say they're not worthy. Have to keep an open mind in this business. So, in fact, it is our duty, I would say it's our lifeline, to keep an open mind. And, I'm grateful that I'll get to Iowa. I am less avid conference hopper, but certainly am than in my heyday, where if it's Tuesday, this might be Cincinnati, if my calendar is right. But But now, with more intention, I go to conferences, and the beautiful thing is, and Julie, we were talking, I'm based in New York, Upper West Side, Manhattan. There's a stereotype perhaps that defines this zip code, how we vote, how we think, how we interact. And but my list is quite broad. It's almost entirely adult nonfiction, all over the map, no rhyme or reason. What I hope that suggests is that I keep an open mind. If you have a book that's worthy and I feel I can sell it, well, then you're a candidate. And really, for me, it's a wonderful mosaic of authors who live everywhere and who are a window into different cultures. And my sense of travel is I get to listen in on the preoccupations and prejudices of place. Iowa, I say it's global village dressed by the gap, like we're all the same in some fundamental way. But sometimes we're thinking about border control and not port security. Our prejudices and preoccupations are different, simply because of what we combat every day on a very micro level. And so I get sensitized to those individual cultures as I travel, and that is quite rewarding. The bonus, of course, is picking up an author. And because I had such success, my top authors come from conferences. There's a clear connection
Great.
that I come with an open heart, an open mind, and real hope that I will find talent that I can serve and that I can benefit from. It's a vital exchange that we both get something out of this, and that I can realize someone's hope for publication, because I do work with first-time authors, and they do need a different kind of commitment because they are blind in the woods and they do need steerage. But if they are cooperative and calm, that's always an
Yeah.
if. And if they are companionable, then there is hope that we can have a great journey together. So
Hello.
I am looking forward, and I thank you again for the invite, and thank you, Catherine, for being the bridge.
Yes, thank you, Catherine.
I do whatever Catherine tells me to do.
Well, the whole world should.
Yes, I know. It would be so much easier, wouldn't it? I'm going to ask each of you agents one question and then a follow-up question, and that is, what makes you say yes to a project? What makes you say yes to a project? Anyone?
Well, I always start when I see a book proposal, my inclination is to say no and assume that it's gonna be stupid. And
Andy.
somewhere around the second sentence or second paragraph, and definitely on the first page, something starts happening, and I can usually feel it in my chest, and I start getting excited, and um, and that's when I can tell that I'm interested. Sometimes it falls apart, but and that's kind of the way it works for me. It comes out of my gut. Now with fiction, it's a little bit different, because I can usually tell, and I think most agents and editors I know will say the same thing. You can usually see in the first paragraph if the person knows how to write or if they have voice. And don't ask me what voice is; it's an ineffable thing, but it's what everybody's looking for, and it's easy to see and hard to define. But it doesn't always work after the first paragraph. Sometimes, when I see something, I'll ask for 10 pages. And sometimes I stop on the second page. And then sometimes I'll ask for the rest of the manuscript. And I may stop on, page 100. Or else I'll read the last 6 letters, THEEND, 3 in the morning, crying like a baby. And that's what I'm looking for.
Okay, who would like to go next? Catherine?
I'd say I'll piggyback on what Andy was saying. It's very visceral because sometimes things have all kinds of worthy elements, but you don't get that feeling that you're the best choice. If I'm thinking, wow, Rita would do a swell job with it for this, I might be the wrong agent, even though the writer might be publishable. It's entirely visceral. I like to joke I'm a book dowser because there's a throbbing feeling that I get. And I've had a real streak. I've never had anything quite like what I've had. I've just sold 24 books back to back
Wow.
since
What?
2025. Not huge mega sales, but very exciting for me. And I've never experienced this before. But if someone were to ask why I chose each project, it's that throb. It's a feeling of, yes, not just that this is publishable, but that I'm the right person to talk it up. And sometimes I think of that as having 100 phone calls or 100 emails in my soul for someone, because sometimes something is perfectly meritorious. It's got some nice elements, it's even publishable, but I might not feel a deep connection or excited enough. So it's entirely instinctual.
Okay, Sherry.
Yeah, I would say all of the above, but also I'm looking for a book that really fits what the basic elements of a good book proposal have. A good idea, written by the right author, well written, presented in a professional way, and it also should be a book that I feel I could find the right publisher for. That the time is right for it. It'll stand the test of time. If it comes out 2 years from the date I'm looking at it, it will still feel fresh. And it's sort of a looking ahead and with a crystal ball and a lot of experience. And even if it's a first time author, which many, maybe most of my authors are, they are like Christine Gertz, take your backpack. They behave like professionals. They want to do their very best work, and they're not married to a particular idea, and they're not calling the shots in terms of we don't work for them, and they don't work for us either. We're forming a complementary copacetic team that all have the same interest in mind, and even the publisher will, even though they're on the other side and they'll be shelling out the money, everyone wants the book to succeed and the author to succeed and have a good title and make it all just a happy experience as best as can be in this. It's a tough world, but it's being an agent is wonderful because having authors is really very much like having a family. And it is, and being a psychologist and being a friend and an uncle or an aunt, it's really it's very rewarding. And then to have a book at the end of it it's incredible. It's something that stays as a legacy. Um, I'm so glad I chose this profession. I didn't know it existed when I was 6 years old and said I wanted to be a writer when I grew up. But I would have said I want to be a literary agent and a writer if I knew this existed.
And here you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Rita. And then we're going to go to participant questions.
For me, it stirs curiosity because it furthers the conversation on a topic we thought we knew or didn't realize was worth knowing in the first place. It opens a door, basically. And if the author is well paired to the topic, making a convincing argument that we need to know, I'm mostly there. And because I can manage some of the editorial improvements, it needs to be mostly there. I don't want to have to reinvent it. Also, because today marketing is so germane to the potential success of a book, I do want to know that they're connected and that I don't have to groom them, so to speak, from a very elementary point, because then that will be labor intensive in a way that I can't commit to, given everything else, all my other duties during the day. I will say that sometimes those books that have no comp because they are the first in their category are not easy to sell. Publishers want to be the second out of the gate, not the first. They want proof that the category is worth publishing in. So this is not risk averse on my behalf. It's wanting to make a contribution to a marketplace and doing my best to finding those elements that will convince the publisher the risk is minimized, mostly because that author really has captured the prospective audience and proved the worth of the topic. So all of these elements that need to be sort of crafted and proved and contained in a proposal in a convincing way, that actually is a large job of the author with the help of the agent.
Okay, great. Let's go ahead and go to Terry Rich, and I think I see some other comments in the chat, but if you do have a question, either raise your hand or put your comment in the chat. Terry?
This is great interest, and you all are professionals. A lot of self-publishing today. So talk about the difference between self-publishing, which seems to take $30,000-$40,000, and the financial model that you would tell an author of what kind of money do you have to do to get into this. I mean, if somebody's got a real barn burner that you feel, then you can take and get it sold. That's great. But how's the split work if a person's spending X amount of dollars between the author, the agent, the publisher, the retailer, and what would you say to a general author? How much time does it take from start to finish to get a book published?
I don't know what a barn burner is.
What a barn burner is?
Yes, what's that?
That's an Iowa term.
Try Blockbuster.
Oh,
Oh,
that's a barn burner?
That's an Iowa term.
But it sounds negative to me. You wouldn't want that in your house, though, would you? It's a blockbuster. Oh, sorry, just didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was going to have you answer the question anyway, so go right ahead. Terry, rephrase.
So I'm coming to you as an agent, hoping you'll like what I have. But do I need to have how much budget do I need to have a book published? Seems like I've self-published.
Well, if you're going to get traditionally published, you could do it with, they actually pay you, unlike when you're self-published. So you can, you don't need to have money. You just have to have a good idea. If you're writing nonfiction, you need to have a book proposal. And if you are writing fiction, you have to have finished the manuscript. They will pay you in advance. Sometimes it's $1,000, sometimes it's $1,000,000, usually closer to the former than the latter. And they will do all the work to get the book published, to promote the book, to market the book, to sell the book. Now, that being said, a lot of editors, everybody complains. Well, with one exception, my clients, they complain that the publisher doesn't do any work for you. And it isn't really true. I mean, they do more than it looks like. Some of it is invisible, but they never do as much as you want. And a book publicist is sort of an entry-level job, and they have about 15 books they're working on at any given time. And you may want to hire a freelance publicist, which will cost you some money. And frankly, it rarely pays back in the additional books that it sells, but they will enhance whatever the publisher is doing.
How much
And
are the splits and all of that? So you see a book in an airport for $24.95, $34.95, whatever it is. What's
yeah.
the split?
Okay, well, I'm glad you asked me because I used to own a bookstore. Typically, if you are paying full price, which is, let's say, $30 for a hardback book, the bookseller will get 40 or 45%. Okay. That leaves about, well, part of that's going to go to the publisher and part to you. Typically, your royalty for a hardback book is going to be 10% for the first 5,000 copies, 12.5% for the next 5,000 copies, and 15% after that. And it's going to be 15% of the retail price. So it'd be 15% of $30. If you're published by a small press, it's going to be a lot less. But that's kind of the way it works.
And is the agent, are you paid first?
Agents work on commission. We're like real estate agents, only
So
we're
you do
selling
commission,
books
okay.
instead of houses. And agents pretty much universally get 15% of whatever income flows to you
It's pretty typical.
based
Thank
from
you.
that contract. So And that would mean not just the book, but if there's sort of merchandise like T-shirts or page-a-day calendars, they'll get 15%. Sometimes if they have to hire a co-agent, like to make a movie deal or something, they'll split that in two, and they usually ask for 20%. Okay.
So
And that's kind of the way it works. It's not that complicated.
let me just ask if any other agents have something contrary to what Andy just said or complementary to what Andy just said.
I just want to emphasize that the two lanes, traditional publishing, Andy said this up front, traditional publishing versus self-publishing, where on Amazon, you don't need $30,000 to print that. It's far less to engage with Amazon. And at the same time, the awareness factor still has to be acute. You don't want typos in the book. You want your best foot forward, but now it's on you to make sure what you publish is excellent. Before that, in a traditional way, you would have an entire team would be engaged to help control all of those elements, and now it's on you. But for certain books that are quite niche or intended solely for your family, that's the way to do it. You don't need a major publisher for that. For
Well,
a
if you
memoir
are
that is really
self-published, though, you probably are going to need a freelance publicist. $30,000 is sort of at the upper end of that, but it's not that hard to spend $10,000 or $15,000 on a freelancer.
Okay, let me move to Mary Swander, who's also a member of the Iowa Writers Collaborative and has written several books. And I'm just going to pull her in. I don't know what questions or comments you have, but I'm sure you do.
Okay, so thank you for coming, and you all sound like you have pretty eclectic lists. What would be a topic that would really wow you right now, that would be trending?
It's
I
so
think
interesting that
if you
I just
identify the trend, it's probably a train's left the station. I think
Yeah,
you have
that's
to
the
write
thing.
what you got to write instead of following
Yeah.
the trend.
Okay, Sherry, what were you going to say?
No, what you just said, you really want to be thinking ahead and have a book that will, I said this before, when it comes out, which could be 2 years from now, 2.5 years from now, even 3 years from now, it should feel fresh then. So what's a popular topic is something like in the field of health. But again, nothing trendy, nothing that looks like it will get dated. Like I wouldn't want to consider anything that's current events. Something that would be a good magazine article right now would not be a good book, because if it's political, for example, I how is that going to read in 2028? Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
along with what Sherry is saying, if it's a fast-moving topic, it'll be tired by the time the book comes out. But you do want cutting edge that looks like it's going to endure, especially in the health arena, because publishers are committed to that, especially when it comes to women's health, let's say, which has been underrepresented for a very long time. So, it's very it's kind of sensitive and particular, and again, much has to do with the author's platform. If they are deeply entrenched in their area of expertise, they can help prove that cutting edge practice will endure, that it's not just there for the moment. And that's part of the argument that has to be present in the proposal.
So just to put Mary on the spot a little bit, she lives in an area where populated by the Amish, and she writes these gorgeous lyrical columns about the Amish community and society. I don't know, Mary, if you've thought about publishing a book about that topic, but is that something that might catch the eye of a publisher or an agent?
That could be interesting. Very well told stories, and ones that are maybe inspirational, heartwarming. If someone can make me cry and laugh, I'm in.
One thing I would think about not doing is, because you do all these articles, don't make it a compendium of things you've already done. Publishers are kind of reticent about kind of vignette books that are put together that way. So try to make it, a complete, integrated narrative. I think that would be easier for you to sell.
Mhm.
That's true about journalists. The fact that journalists are really good writers and are used to looking at a topic is a big plus for them. Uh, some of the challenges are they're used to writing in smaller, uh, uh, shorter length pieces, and it shouldn't be just a collection of the articles you've published. That almost never work. There really does have to be a thematic element that runs through everything that makes it necessary to be a book.
Okay, great. And the next question I'd like to target to both Rita and Catherine, and that is memoir. About half the people that come to the Okoboji Writers Retreat are thinking about writing their memoir. Is that a topic that is hard to market? That's what I hear a lot of. But on the other hand, some people prefer specializing in memoir. Rita, what about you? And then followed by Catherine.
I, I am attracted to memoir that stands out. It has to be outstanding, in other words, because it's a crowded category that's harder than other categories to break into. And also, I think that the readership, it was Angela's Ashes that convinced everyone that an everyday man or woman's story is worth telling. And so the gates were open and the deluge started. And there are so many memoirs by people who are otherwise not known except for in their community. And so I think the bar is very high. That said, I have in the last year handled a number of them. A number of them have come out. They are rather particular. They tell particular stories that I believe have universal appeal. That's usually the formula that helps me convince a publisher that there's a market waiting for it. And again, platform counts. If the author, and the phrase I use is create a resume for the book, you can't just assume that publishing the book will create an audience. You have to establish that audience for your book and prove it exists because of your outreach. So there's the work you have to do, separate from writing the book.
Okay, Catherine.
But
Excuse me.
yeah,
No, go ahead if you had something to add.
no, that sums it up. Thank you.
Okay, Catherine.
I'd take a step back to say that every book deal that we bring about, we've had to argue the case, as Rita indicates. You have to make a case for a book. And with memoir, you only have the voice and the experience most of the time. Yes, you might point to a demographic or a region or something like that, but so it has to really hit you hard. And then, of course, there's always something of a challenge question. Is this story sustainable at book length work, or would it make a great article? But I have handled several recently, and they usually target something that somehow has been neglected. I also tend to believe people should always be writing. You could be writing for your family, it's true, but I would never discourage someone from doing a memoir. But when it comes to the marketing of one, we're looking for some kind of, linchpins or footholds, something we can point to farther that takes the story into a more universal and relatable realm.
Interesting.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Okay, there's good news and there's bad news about memoirs. I was researching one recently, and you can look at Publishers Marketplace, and one of the things you can see is you can look at every publisher or every editor, and see, kind of a pie graph of what the genres are they're doing. The largest nonfiction genre I see in almost every publisher is memoir. Okay, that's the good news. Publishers are really looking for memoirs. Agents are looking for memoirs. The bad news is everybody's writing them, and a lot of them sound really familiar. One of the things I tell people I'm looking for, which this sounds sort of paradoxical, is I'm looking for a memoir that looks outward instead of inward, and that has a really clear concept. Like I had a memoir that was about a doctor treating Ebola in Africa at the height of the epidemic. That's a high concept. You know exactly what that book's about. It's not just some kind of murky thing about surviving a troubled family or something. I see a lot of those. I have a book now that just came out, and it's about a story of courtship between, kind of a Romeo and Juliet story where they had to overcome obstacles. Well, that sounds really stupid and boring and familiar. But what I didn't tell you is that the two people in the memoir, one of them is a Jewish human rights lawyer in Israel, and the other is a Palestinian professor living in the West Bank.
Mm,
And
mm.
truly is a Romeo and Juliet story because they had to cross over borders where it was not allowed. And that's kind of what distinguished that book from, a story with kind of a similar concept.
Okay. All right, let's see. Let's go around the whole panel here for a succinct answer to this question. And that is, if a writer takes one step this week toward getting published, just one step, what should it be? Who would like to go first? Catherine?
Oh, well, that's such an interesting question. I would love to have pondered that a little bit.
Okay, I can skip around.
Oh
I'll
yeah,
start.
let's see what Sherry comes up with.
Okay, Sherry, what
Write,
step?
write a wonderful query letter and make it as perfect as it can be, succinct about what the book is about, why you're the best author to write it, how energetic you are to promote it and build a platform. And I mean, you may be jumping the gun by doing that. You may not be ready for that step. So the answer really is going to be, what stage are you at for your very next step? That's a better. It'll be easier to answer that in a customized way for each individual person.
Oh, wait, I've got something. I'm no
Okay.
coward. I didn't mean to dodge. Something I do like to tell writers, and this is actually a later stage, but it can also be the pre-pre stage, and that is go to a brick and mortar store and to Amazon and really envision where your book is going to be. Really do the woo-woo thing of bringing it, manifesting it, but not just that, learn some lessons. What else is there? What's missing? We use the phrase comp titles a lot for anyone new to that phrase. That's comparable books, but also competitive books and complementary books. It has a tripartite meaning. So you want to see what is out there that's remotely like your book, that's finding readers, and try to become conversant with what elements were there that you also have or that you improve upon so that you really approach traditional professional publishing with the belief that your book belongs on that shelf.
Good.
Uh, what I would say, like the next thing you should do is read your manuscript again, read it out loud, and listen to how it sounds.
That's good. Rita, how about you?
I vote for clarity. Very often an author will approach me and I'm not quite sure what their book is. And what a waste. What a waste of our interaction. Either it's nerves, or they haven't thought it through, or they've gotten so much feedback that it's turned murky. I can't say, but it's a waste. Try to approach, and it doesn't have to be florid or humorous or excite. It needs to be clear. I need to know what it is you're pitching me so I can react in kind. And that's what I would say. Clarity.
That's great. That's great.
Um,
Okay. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I should. This is something that every author should do when you have your book published, and that is mention your book. I'm the author of The Complete Idiot's Guide to Getting Published. It's in its 5th edition. It's not for idiots, but it's a very good start to learn the book publishing world, uh, especially prior to a conference, how to approach an agent, how to make the most of your time at a writers conference, and what you and learn what you have to look forward to, whatever stage you're at right now.
Okay, great. Hey, Tim Grover, you have a question in the chat. Why don't you come join the conversation? You'll need to make sure your mic is on. Tim? Going once? Going twice? Tim? Oh, no, you're in the waiting room now. Okay, Laura Bellin, you have a question and a comment. Go ahead and have at it.
I just was wondering, somebody jogged my memory when you mentioned typos that if you're self-publishing, you want to make sure that it's high quality and you don't have typos. I have seen in recent years typos, even in books from very top publishers like HarperCollins, are even the major publishing houses cutting back on copy editors, or what's going on with that?
It's a darn shame, and especially when it's in the third printing and there's
Oh,
still a typo. A lot of people have been asleep at the wheel. And one hopes that, sometimes there are energetic readers of the book who will contact the author on page 20. Mother is spelled incorrectly. And that feedback should go to the publisher, obviously, for the next printing to be cured. I mean, it's on the responsibility of the author, alas, from beginning to end. And of course, you're given a chance to read it in various stages, so it is on you. Yes, it's copy edited, not always well. I'm impressed when I see editors, starting with editors, make a difference and turn a good book great. I'm really in awe because it's not a given. It never was, and it still isn't. But when I see talent expressed at the publishing end, I am very grateful. As I said, it's not a given. But yes, typos abound in the New York Times, and
oh yeah.
everywhere.
So this is a question that Laura is going to roll her eyes about, but she too is a member of the Iowa Writers Collaborative, very prolific writer and reporter on politics here in the state. But we have this ongoing conversation about AI, and and don't get her started. But let's talk to you all about AI. What's good about it? What's bad about it? It's the train's left the station, to use a cliche, but it's here. So what do you think are the pros and cons of AI? Rita?
Well,
The con is that we are now paranoid 24/7. Why? Because not all of this is detectable. As we have learned about a book, Shy Girl, that was published in the UK, and then when it was put through a program, there were so many elements of AI that generated the text. Hachette in the States will not be publishing that. And that's the first one that has come to the press's eye. But my guess is this is all over the place. Why? Because authors weren't really tracked for it until now. And so there are clauses within most publishing contracts today that regulate the use of an author's ability to use AI. And I think that's entirely practical, if not essential, for intellectual property reasons. How can you claim the copyright if you really didn't write the book, but a robot did? So I consider these deep questions.
Yeah.
There's some uses for it. I mean, and I feel like it's going to take away my job. But AI is actually good for some things. It's not very good if you're trying to write a novel or anything. Actually, I actually asked AI how can I identify text that's written in AI, and it gave me pretty good analysis of it. But when people write a query letter or a book proposal, they always are sort of flummoxed by comp titles. And I think you can, at least for a first pass, use AI to get kind of a list. Okay. One of the things I do when I see a book proposal and I see comp titles and they say there's nothing like it that's ever been written, I will look it up on AI and I'll see that a lot of books have been written on the subject. And that's important information for me to know. Um, it can definitely help you with grammar or with punctuation. Um, and it can, if you're writing a book proposal, um, it would help you organizationally. I would not have it write a novel for you. The longer you're asking it to write text, the worse it gets. And at this point, it's true. It is true. If you were at this point, if it looks too perfect, um, I can usually tell if it's AI if I get a query.
Catherine, do you have anything to add? We can switch topics if not.
With AI, I'm afraid becoming a big fan, and I'm not a tech head in any way, but it's doing my tarot readings and dream analysis and yes, comp titles, and it's even made some great editor suggestions. So I think it's coming in more and more. But yes, we're alert to it, and it's a problem for writers who rely on it. That's true.
Interesting. So I want to talk to you about the 24 writers you've signed. Is it in the last year? What's that time period?
Oh, not just signed. I have on Publishers Marketplace since 25, two more going in actually. So 24. Um, a lot of them newbies, first timers, a really cool streak.
Can we call this the Okoboji effect just for fun?
Well, I'm afraid I can't do that. I think there are many great Okoboji effects out there, no question.
I'm kidding you.
Uh, but this one I would take away from the authors if I did that.
Oh, I was really kidding you, obviously.
But there are many great Okoboji effects, no question.
But tell me, can you look at this pattern? Is there a pattern in these selections? Is it something about you seeing anything differently, or just the writing is somehow magical that wasn't there before, or what do you think?
I think the book gods found my address. I don't know what else to think.
I feel that way sometimes too. Although I have 25 books in the last 12 months. So congratulations to Catherine.
Yes.
Thank you. I mean, again, these are not seven-figure deals, but it's a thrill to me. I'm a boutique agent. I'm not with CAA. I don't have a mandate or six overbosses checking every penny. I couldn't really enjoy this job that way. But to do a first-time, book is very, very thrilling to me.
Not to mention the author. So how did you find these? Is there any pattern in that? How did they come to you?
Truly not. Will Calhoun, who came to Okoboji and loved it, was
Will.
one. But he's a rock star. It's not hard to sell them usually. Um, I just things that came over the transom, as we call going through the slush, but Rita doesn't allow the word slush. And personal recommendations. Two were existing authors. A lot of several were just queries, cold queries.
Okay, interesting. All
I
right.
have some interesting things in my slush pile. Somebody said there's gold in that there
That's Rita.
over the transom. And I got a U.S. senator who showed up in the slush pile. I was looking at one a few months ago and I saw a name of somebody who was frequently on Rachel Maddow. My most successful book, which is now optioned for a TV series, I met her many years ago in the slush pile, and I'd never met her in real life. She lives in France, and I've been working with her for 10 years. I also, now this is the one I like the best. I saw the name of the guy who stole my first love away from me in the slush pile,
Oh,
and I couldn't decide what to do, whether I would humiliate him by rejecting him in a particularly offensive way, or whether I would be sort of like Rick, in Casablanca. So,
What
so
did
there's
you
a lot of,
do?
I figure eventually everybody shows up in my slush pile. So
okay.
Wait, I
Rita.
want to hear what Andy did.
Okay,
I
Andy, what
actually,
did you do?
it was a good book and I tried to sell it and
Oh
I
my
did not
God.
succeed. It did not succeed, but it was a good book. And I was proud of that book.
Oh my God.
Oh, okay. So what happens to a book like that? You say it's a good book, it didn't sell. Can the author then take it to another agent? What are the
Well,
mechanics?
I would like to say, and I think these other agents are here too, if we can't sell the book, I mean, this is a problem. It's a very good question. I know that if I can't sell that book, it's going to be difficult to sell. I mean, I will take it, I will send out a novel to 30 or 40 places, and if I cannot find a publisher for it, then they're going to have to go a different route.
Andy, though, to be fair, not all agents are as dogged as you. And so I ask, where are you with other agents? If I'm interested in seeing a proposal, where are you with other agents and have any publishers seen this work? And
Good.
that is because one time I made a submission and the editor said, Rita, I've seen this before, and I rejected it. So I thought, whoa, I didn't ask all the right questions. And now I ask, where are you with other agents and have any publishers seen this work? So if I learn that it has gone to 5 publishers and they were completely inappropriate in my mind for that submission, there might still be a pathway to publication. But if it's gone to 40 publishers, the likelihood of finding one are dim.
But
And
then
also,
there's
what
self-publishing.
Rita brings up is a very important point. You got to be completely honest. You cannot fool an agent. We have seen bullshit so many times. And if you cannot be honest with me, I don't want to work with you.
Yeah. Rita, I need your help on something. The slush pile, excuse me, workshop during the Okoboji Writers Retreat is very popular. So what would you like me to call it going forward?
Unsolicited submissions. Oh, unsolicited. I didn't ask for it, but I don't mind getting it.
Okay. All right.
As I say, where I'm from, slush is dirty snow. This is not what I'm getting. I'm not getting dirty snow.
Slush pile, parentheses, not the dirty snow.
I think a slush pile is gold and smells like perfume.
Thank you. Thank you. Add a little poetry.
I think the word slush is time honored, but I always feel a pang of guilt because of Rita.
Exactly. Exactly.
But we
I
need
don't
to
care
come
what
up
you
with a
call it.
catchy title rather than unsolicited.
Over the transom gold.
Transom.
Transom
Potential
gold.
book,
Oh my
potential
God,
book
transom
pile.
gold.
How about
Transom
potential,
gold. What? Oh,
potential book pile?
potential book title.
Pile.
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 Is pile okay, Rita?
Is pile okay?
I'd say, over the transom gold. That's where I would call it.
Yeah.
Over the transom.
Okay. Okay. Over the transom gold. Okay. Consider it done, Rita, just for you.
That's funny.
Okay. Let's see. We have time for one more question. And I don't see any hands up. So let me go 1, 2, 3. Let's see. At what point do you think a manuscript is truly ready to query? How would you answer that question?
I jump on it and say, you have to look and say, this is the best work I am capable of doing. You have also done a bit of homework. You'll often hear that word, maybe in terms of the comp titles. And you've read it aloud, you've taken everyone's advice, and you really think there's nothing better that I can produce.
Okay. Anybody else?
Keep in mind, Julie, we're selling on the basis of a proposal, except with memoir.
Nonfiction.
Except with memoir, where we want a whole, yes, both memoir and fiction.
Yeah.
We want a whole manuscript in that case. But with a book proposal, typically the manuscript is not complete. Rarely is it. On occasion it is. Mostly we are selling on a book proposal, which includes, let's say, the first 3 chapters that are polished and representative of the manuscript to come.
Okay.
So
when you are submitting a manuscript because it's a memoir or a novel, and you do want to have the whole thing written, I don't think it's submittable until you've had it read by people or experts who will tell you what could be better about it, who won't just blow smoke to make you feel good, but will help you improve it. Maybe it's been workshopped. And if you have money, we were talking about that pile of money before that you don't need in general, but if you happen to have it and you want to pass it by the eyes of a professional freelance editor, that can often help you. Just do whatever it takes to make it finished and polished, and not just you're sick of writing it and ready to get it out the door. You really feel it's ready for the world. People will want to read it. Then write a good query letter and submit it.
Okay, Michelle, you have the last question, please. Do you want to specify which agent you'd like to have answer the question?
Sherry. Okay, so as Julie indicated earlier, I wrote a memoir. I independently or self-published it in 23. It became a #1 bestseller on Amazon for a new book.
Congratulations.
Like, Yeah, 10th day out. I've adapted it to a screenplay. I'm in discussions with a producer to produce it. And I was inspired to write the rest of the story. So I'm 2/3 of the way done with my second, the rest of the storybook. And I have been planning on doing another self-publishing route. I've done about almost 100 book talks on my book. But now I'm kind of contemplating whether I should go try to do the traditional route. What are your feelings about getting a book proposed to you where they've already like done a self-published book, but now they're going to shift gears and maybe try to do traditional?
Well, you're a unicorn because I would say because of your amazing results as a self-published writer, you have a good chance of potentially finding an agent who could potentially find a publisher for you, and might want to actually try before immediately going to self-publishing. Whereas I would normally suggest an author try to go the traditional route first before answer the question before. After you've gone to 30 publishers, an agent, it's not like you'll find another agent. That's when you should go try self-publishing. But in this case, I would be interested in discussing that with you. I mean, um, I haven't sold many books that have already been published, but I did sell one. There was an author in Canada who came to me with Over the Transom, How to Make People Like You in 90 Seconds or Less. It was an ugly looking self-published book. It was a bestseller in Canada. So it sold to all 10 people there. And but he hadn't been all over the United States with it yet, and I sold it to Workman, and it would be like even bigger. It's very big. Years and years later, it's still getting huge royalties, but it would have been bigger except on September 11th. That's when he was supposed to be on the show, 2020, or 16, yeah, 2020. So, but in your case, and it was a self-published. Oh, in your case this is different because you're talking about a second edition. If it were published, if the first edition, if the first part of your memoir was published by a publisher, I would say go to that same publisher. In this case, you're the publisher, but I think you have a shot at finding a big publisher.
I would also add, much depends on the sales. You've done a lot of publicity. I hope that has generated sales because you will be asked that. How many books have you sold?
And on that note, we must wrap up, but you'll see Michelle in September. And I am so grateful for this conversation for all of you. We'll have to figure out the logistics of how we do signups and for pitch sessions. And Andy, maybe you and Catherine can figure that out. But thank you so much for being with us and for coming to Okoboji and all of you on the call. It's just a terrific conversation. So.
Thank you, Julie.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.